For this year's incarnation of PAX East in Boston, Massachusetts, it decided that all of that awesome could no longer be contained inside just 3 days, so it went to 4, matching its relative PAX West in Seattle. Now it becoming more of a marathon, did the expanded convention deliver? We'll let you be the judge. On today's episode, we'll bring you our thoughts and perspectives on the various indie and AAA games we sampled, tabletop games, panels, concerts, tournaments, events, you name it. Listen in as we bring you our highlights of PAX East 2018 next on Downloadable Content. Hello everyone, welcome to Downloadable Content, and with me we have Wyatt.
Hello, hello.
And Alton, your first Downloadable Content, welcome aboard.
Hi. I'm pretty sure I've been on one before, ages ago.
It probably was like 3 years ago, yeah.
A while ago.
Happy to be back. I'll have to check my list for that, and if you were, it was eons ago.
Yeah, but happy to be back.
Welcome back. Glad to have you. And, Wyatt, our Sprites and Dice representative.
Actually, Alton is actually now a contributor for Sprites and Dice.
Yep.
Oh, it's official now.
Yes, it is. Partially probably because of PAX East this year, because it was a very good PAX East, which is why we're here.
It was a very, very good PAX East, even if I am now on day 6 of fighting the remnants of Concrud at this point.
Gosh.
Oh, yep. Yay, Crohn's and immunosuppressant medication. Things last longer. Things last longer. So, that's alright. I hope I don't sound too congested. At least I feel well enough. But we're going to talk as my wife comes into the room, because I think I've given her some share of plague. Glaring angrily at me. But yes, we're going to talk about PAX East 2018. So before we do that, just want to remind everybody out there that every single episode of Downloadable Content can be found on our website, dlcpodcast.com. Each episode is also on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. And it's all there. You can check out upcoming episodes, give us feedback, give us ideas for future episodes. We'd love to have them. So, again, dlcpodcast.com. And Wyatt, I will give you a couple minutes to plug Sprites and Dice before we dive into the 4-day marathon.
Oh, at the beginning? I'm not ready. So, my name is Wyatt. I am the editor-in-chief of spritesanddice.com. Spelt the whole way out. We love covering board games, video games, and anything between about the gaming community. Anything that we can find that is positive, that we feel is assisting or making the gaming world a better place. We love covering indie games. That's how we got started, actually at PAX East probably about 3 years ago now, maybe 4. And we've been growing ever since. We were able to go back as press this time. So if you go to our website, by the time this podcast comes out, we have a ton of articles out about everything that we saw, a lot of the games we played, and other games we came back home with to have review copies and play through and share with you for your listening and viewing pleasure.
Yeah, and if anyone out there who listens to Downloadable Content, just go check out Sprites and Dice. While DLC is mainly video games oriented, Sprites and Dice covers the entire gamut. So, they do Sprites and Dice for serious business. I just do DLC for shits and giggles. So, go there, check it out. It's a lot of good stuff. So, all right. Now that all of the shameless plugs are out of the way, let's begin talking about PAX East 2018. And I know that you guys were not there for day one, which started on Thursday this go-around.
Unfortunately not. And I was really excited to be out that way because I knew, one, it was going to be the quietest day.
Yeah.
And there's never enough time at PAX. There never is. I still feel like by the end of the 4 days, my writers that were able to go for the full days didn't feel like there was enough time. But I was looking forward to kind of having a quieter day to start off on. But no, me and Alton ended up having work that day. So we got in the car right around 5 o'clock and drove like speed demons to Boston. We ended up getting to go to a very small party at like the tail end of it called Made in Massachusetts. One thing about PAX that's really cool is that wherever a gaming convention is, not just PAX, but anyone that I've heard about or I've been to, a lot of the town gets taken over by individual companies or otherwise that want to either plug themselves or they just want to kind of show other things that weren't able to be shown on the show floor. So, for example, State of Decay from Undead Labs, they actually had a private party held somewhere that only invited like 50 to 100 people that was able to has been to be hung out at. The Westin, which is right next door, has parties which usually are a lot of game developers and then press, but sometimes they'll allow kind of big diehard fans to also come in, take a look around, see what people are cooking. And then you have there was a massive Acer party, which is a company that makes, gaming laptops and computers. And they threw a massive party that some of our friends went to. They said that they had a great time. The one we went to was called Made in Massachusetts and it was a lot smaller.
Yeah, it was in downtown Boston. In like a small little like service area, like I guess a restaurant.
Yeah, it was like half restaurant, half kind of open community space. And it was pretty much any indie developer that has made games in Massachusetts showing off their stuff. So I was glad we went because even though by the time we got there, kind of the crush of it was over, we were able to kind of take a look at some games that were not on the show floor. There was one or two that were, but most of them weren't on the show floor. Kind of got to hang out and kind of it was almost sort of like a warm up for the next 3 days for us.
I got to play a VR game, and I go like complete nauseous in VR, but that one was smooth and it went well. You were fighting as a giant ship fighting smaller ships, and it was pretty cool. It
was 1 versus 4, where the 4 smaller spaceships are invisible, and the large one is just trying to blow them the hell out of the water with a giant laser beam, and you have to try to find them. Mm-hmm. And then the one that I like that actually your wife would really like, Brian, was a small party game called Austen Translation.
All right.
As in Jane Austen.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, there you go. And pretty much it had sort of...
It felt like not a dating simulator, but like you played as one of these Victorian women trying to get the eye and approval and then subsequently marry one of the 3 lords. I think there were 3.
3 lords. Now it's now modeled after it. So pretty much you would have each chapter would just have this very verbose language that came right from Jane Austen or that style, talking about how terrible people you were trying to get married so you'd have large dowries. And you had to kind of manipulate your statistics, which you kind of knew half of, but you didn't know the other half of. And you were trying to match them to a particular lord so you'd get married off and get the most money at the end of the game. It was a really fun mini party game that, your wife would probably really enjoy. Or you'd like during your Christmas parties, I think. Put it up on the screen.
That could be a lot of fun. That's like the Victorian dating game, practically. It's
So it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of smaller games there that were kind of just really cool to see. Some of them, weren't fantastic, but a lot of them were just really good as exercise. It's sort of like why you like going to the Indie Mega Booth,
Yeah. And that's, those smaller parties, I remember going to one of them that was the night before PAX Unplugged back in Philly last November. So,
right.
A lot of those. And I saw that there was a considerable number of them as well, Facebook groups and whatnot. And I was like, maybe if I wasn't with my brother-in-law, I might have gone, but, I had, another person to consider. So, I wound up going to Jacob Worth, which is one of my favorite restaurants in Boston.
I still have never gotten out there and it's driving me nuts.
Well, it's like I didn't make it to the Brauhaus in Philly the night.
That's true.
So, slight even there. But I will have to take you there because it's absolutely amazing. So I got
Tell me a story about that.
I got my fill of Wiener Schnitzel, and I was very happy. So
we actually did luck out because right around the corner from where our Airbnb was, so that was nice. We had an Airbnb.
Yep.
First time I've ever used it, and I don't think this group they understood what PAX East was, so they didn't ramp up the prices like everyone else. So I still paid a pretty penny because it was in Boston, but it was about a mile or a little bit less than a mile away.
Yeah, we were able to walk.
We walked there in the morning, there at night, never had to pay parking. And right around the corner was a 24/7 donut shop.
Yeah.
That made homemade breakfast sandwiches 24/7 and good coffee. So pretty much when we'd get back, we'd go get a sandwich, get a donut, pass out,
were amazing.
Wake up in the morning, get a sandwich, get coffee, walk there.
Very nice.
Because I'm from New York.
Very, very nice. Yes, that's so. But day one of PAX itself, I mean, since you guys weren't there, I was. And, I got there later than I anticipated. I got there at 11:30 as opposed to like around 10:30 or so because there was some information that was not on the Massachusetts, on the MBTA, the subway website, that could have been really important. So I had to find another subway station. The subway station I was planning to start from, it would have been very, very nice if they had said, hey, this parking garage is undergoing major construction, which is reducing the number of available parking spaces. So it's like, by the time I get there, this great big parking garage, that I'm like, I'm going to find parking. It's a work day. Yeah, it'll be pretty full, but it won't be full. And I get there, and he's like, a massive section of the garage is closed and lot full. And I'm like, oh, thanks. So I'm on my phone trying to hunt down, another subway station nearby that has parking. And I found one. But the long and the short of it is I got there a little later than I intended to. But it didn't matter. Thursday was definitely the quietest day of the 4. So much so that, not even all of the vendors and developers were there on Thursday. There were open spaces on the expo floor.
People were still flying in, getting their stuff set up. Yeah.
And also, especially a lot of indie devs, a lot of them probably also have other jobs. So,
yes. Actually, that was something that took me off guard, and I missed out on one or two indies because I didn't realize it. So you have the major indie mega booth, but then you kind of have those two sections where you have the indie mega booth that does tabletop.
Yep.
And then you have that section where it's just the standees, where it's just like one console standing, where you can show off your game. And I found out that those were alternating. So you had a certain group there on Thursday and Saturday, and then another group there Friday and Sunday.
Ah, that I did not know.
So I remember we actually, for my team, we were going to be scheduled to go meet a particular developer, but we found out that they weren't on the show floor on Sunday. So when we met with them, he actually met us on the show floor, brought his game with him in his bag, and we set it up somewhere on a laptop to play through it. It was a good game. Awesome. We just kind of they had this alternating schedule, which actually, if I was an indie developer, I wouldn't mind, because then I'd have the other 2 days to walk around PAX and look at everything else. But that's just me.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it's like I noticed that on Thursday. It's like Ryan and we get to the show floor, and I'm like, first of all, elbow room. That's weird, and but yeah, just there are these open spaces on the floor that that somebody's going to fill, but they just weren't there. So there was not a lot of that, but definitely noticeable, and was being Thursday and also being a work day for many people. It just was a little bit weird to see PAX so empty, relatively speaking. But
on the other side of things, I noticed, because for the last few days, Friday and Saturday felt about the same in terms of the crush of humanity. Saturday absolutely was always full. Always full. If I did not have a press pass and was able to kind of get where I needed to because of that, I would make sure my Saturday afternoon I'd spend in panels or in the free play area or in other areas that were not the show floor. Sunday, though, was more busy than I remember Sunday being.
Yeah, it was, Friday and Saturday, yes. Those were the 2 days that sold out of badges the quickest. Sunday was still low going into it, but still a pretty solid number of people. And yeah, it was a pretty busy Sunday. Sunday for me was tournament day, so that was the day I spent the least amount of time on the floor. So, Thursday was so dead that I actually got in. There was no line at the Square Enix booth to play Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, wow.
It was that level of dead. I walked by the Square Enix booth, and I'm like, where's the line? I don't see...
Did you get a chance to play it?
I did play. I spent about 20 minutes playing Final Fantasy 15 on PC. And
so what do you think about it?
My first thought for... as I started playing it was like, oh, is this Kingdom Hearts 3 in disguise?
Yeah, I could see that.
But no, it's just I'm playing it, and this is the first time I'm actually touching the game and playing it. So it felt pretty smooth. It's just I'm not used to. I'm used to that sort of open world, free motion, real time action RPG genre. I've played many games that have that style, but I'm not used to it coming from Final Fantasy. So for like the first 10 minutes or so, my brain was like, this doesn't feel like a standard Final Fantasy game. There's too much open. Where's the linear? But I'm like, all right, let's get off the road. Let's take our 4-person boy band off into the field, and let's do some combat. And combat felt pretty smooth. It felt like, keep saying it felt like Kingdom Hearts, because this game was also very heavily developed by Tetsuya Nomura, and it felt pretty smooth, it felt pretty solid, the characters have personality to them, and I'm very interested to actually pick this up on PC when I finish building it, because this is a game where if I were to buy this and download this and put it on my PC, my current PC, it would grow, it would explode. It would also probably grow arms and choke me. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
It's Final Fantasy 15 is nice. I'm guessing they have said recently that there are plans for more DLC content through 2019 for this game.
Yep.
And, each one is to improve the story. So maybe I'll get it for PC once they have a full story in the game. But if we start talking about Final Fantasy 15 more, I think we're going to end up doing that for an hour. So
yeah. So, but just to go back, it's just like Thursday was so dead that I actually like, oh, no line, I'll just hop in and play this. And seeing like if you were going to go to PAX, if you wanted to spend any time like really playing some of the more AAA or popular indie titles, Thursday was the day to do it, because again, the lines were very minimal or non-existent. So I got to...
So, Brian, I think you know of my strategy that I do, although I don't think you've ever done it with me, which is the line technique.
Go on.
So me and Alton, this has become a tradition. So once every PAX we do this, where we get there super early. So we're talking like 8:30. Try to get in as early as we can, and we get into the queue line.
Oh,
Typically it's Friday.
Right
so
when I'm waking up.
So that's one reason why you've never done it with us.
No.
We get there early before it shows up, so we can get there on time to wait on a line, so we don't have to wait on a line. Let me explain. So if you usually go to those very large areas, you'll notice that there are line queues, and the line queues will cap after a particular point, where you can no longer add yourself to them, even if you wanted to. And you will kind of go, oh, well, that sounds like fun, and you walk away because, there's no way for you to do it. Exactly. This way, what you're able to do, though, is that you join the massive queue line. Now, I will post pictures of this, and you will understand. It is a massive queue line. But if you get on far enough, what we do is we show up there Friday, really excited. We couldn't sleep anyway because it's the first day of PAX.
Yep.
We open up our map, and we kind of make a choice. We're like, what are the top 2 or 3 booths that we know are going to be crowded as hell? And we're going to try to get to one of them before the rest of the line can.
Yep. Pick a plan of attack.
So that's what we did. And we were able to, this way, we got in the queue line. We were probably part of the first 1,000 people into the show floor on Friday, which is a lot. That queue line ends up like 4,000 or 5,000 people by the end of it.
And they pretty much deny everyone away from the main entrance. Pretty much, they're just like, we're not going to let anyone in until that queue line is empty. We're not going to open those doors for the general public.
So again, I don't recommend doing this every single day, but if you want to do it like 1 or 2 of the days.
As amateurs, we did that.
Yeah, as amateurs, we did that every single day. By the end of the weekend, we were exhausted. But we did it Friday, and we used it to get to the Microsoft booth because I wanted to play a game I've been looking forward to for years, State of Decay 2.
Ah, yes.
You have never had a chance to play State of Decay 1, have you?
I've never played it, but I've watched you play it.
And I've played it once or twice. State of Decay 1. It's a really fun game. Solid.
So this was the first time actually at this convention they were showing off gameplay that you could actually play of State of Decay 2. And 1, it's obviously a lot prettier. And 2, one reason why I definitely want to kind of book it with Alton here is because you could play co-op. So we were actually able to play on a team as part of the same community.
Yep. And that was a lot of fun. There was the exhibitor there pretty much guided us on the demo, directing us to a house that was pretty much a nest for the zombies. And we took out the nest with great cost to ourselves.
Essentially, if you are never familiar with the State of Decay series, who you are playing as is that you're playing not just as one person, but as a community of people in a dilapidated town that's going further and further downhill because the zombies are everywhere already. They've kind of, the zombies have taken over, the apocalypse has hit, and so you are playing as one of the groups of survivors trying to figure out what the hell you're going to do about this. The way you do that is there's various different ways. But one really cool way is that you're able to switch between characters, and you kind of have to manage the life, because the name of the game is State of Decay, so your weapons break down, your guns can jam. You can drive in cars and literally mow down entire groups, which is one of the best things you can do in the game. We got to do that for a while. We both got in a pickup truck and just opened doors into crowds of zombies, which feels fantastic. But it was an open world. They say, okay, you've got 10 minutes for this demo. Get to work. Here's a place where you can get right into the action. Something that's new about the game, they added an infection meter, which, Brian, I know you've played board games that have an infection meter, and you know how much stress that brings.
Oh, yeah.
So pretty much if you are playing the game and you have this infection meter, what essentially happens is you get attacked by certain zombies they're bright red, they look a little bit more ravenous than usual, and if they hit you, your infection meter goes up. Once you get up to a certain point, your character will start to get sick, and there'll be a timer starting to count down, and your community as a whole has to decide whether to vote them out, kill them outright, or try to find a cure.
Yeah, but that expends resources that you may need for other things.
That, there's a lot of Dead of Winter in there. It's a...
Which is not a bad thing, by any stretch of the imagination.
No. It's just that, I don't mind games, board games or video games, that have a little bit of an anxiety component in them. It's just that moment of...
So we were able to do it. In the original game, a nest was much more of a stolid affair because there was no major thing you had to go fight. You just had to go in there, and you knew there was going to be special versions of zombies, think Left 4 Dead essentially, that you would have to take out. Once all of them were dead, the nest would be considered to be destroyed. In this one, though, the nest was actually like a giant cocoon of just rib cages and skulls that pulsated slightly, and if you attacked it, it would summon more of them. more zombies because it'd get more and more pissed off at you. So that was fun.
Nice.
It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun at all. Yeah, so that was a really good thing to do. We did that as a team. It felt really good to play that game co-op because I like playing the first game, and you can kind of have like a NPC character, but being able to play with someone on your side. I believe the final game is going to have 4 people.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, I think. Don't quote me on that one. I have to do some more research before I write my article. But it felt really good playing co-op. I like that idea that by the end of it, I was using a shotgun to maximum effect, but it jammed halfway through that fight.
Oh, yeah, I remember you.
So I had to pull out a piece of a cast iron fence and was using that to bludgeon things to death. It just feels like a really cool game, and I recommend playing it for anyone who wants to play it. Definitely give it a shot. I think the pre-orders, that's the big thing they were trying to sell, is that the fact that the pre-orders for this game are going to be going up very soon. So keep your eye out for it.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, I don't know if you gentlemen noticed this as well, but I certainly did, and it makes me so very happy.
All right.
The Nintendo Switch has now been in existence for just over a year at this point.
Yes.
Did you two happen to notice the sheer volume of indie devs making games for the Switch?
Yes. So, actually, that question for me and Alton, when we were going around doing recording, was hilarious because we kept asking people, like, oh, so you're making the game? And they'd go, oh yeah, we're making it for PC, Xbox. That was a huge thing I've noticed, that a lot of people weren't making just a game for PC now because indie games have become more popular. Partially because of last year, if you remember, PlayStation 4 made a big deal of being like, look at how many indie showcases we have. So that was a big thing that they tried to declare repeatedly. And then this last year, you noticed that Nintendo has the Nindies, which are, Switch-based indie games. So because of that, almost every single indie person that we spoke to was talking about how they had a sponsor from one of the major companies. So Xbox or PC or PlayStation or Switch. And you kid like, oh yeah, so we're going to be on Steam, we're going to be on PlayStation 4, and we're going to be on Switch.
Yep.
And they would almost all say it just like that. And we'll be on Switch, like with a big dopey smile on their face. Or I would talk to people and I would ask them, oh, are you going to be on Switch as well? And they'd go, not yet. Everyone's asking that this time for some reason.
It's just, I mean, we all know just how much the Switch has been a runaway success for Nintendo. I mean, It's just been, and I love mine. And the fact that developers are now paying attention to the Switch, it's like, oh, Nintendo, how about that third-party support that you need so badly?
Now they have it.
Now they're getting it in buckets again, and it's just so happy for me, at least from my perspective, because I own the Switch. I really don't have an interest in buying a PS4 or an Xbox One because, to me, those two are basically the same system. Like, there's almost no difference between the two.
That's a fair statement.
So it's like, okay, my options are either PC or that's it.
Right.
So having now games being made for PC or Switch, I'm like, oh, I have options. Do I want to play this? Do I want to be able to play this game on the go or the Switch as a handheld? And I'm really liking the fact that it's like, oh, I have choices now. I don't have to plunk myself in front of my PC anymore. I can buy this game and take it with me, which is great. And one of the games that I saw that I will bring up is, I actually did try this out on the Thursday. It was one of the first games I demoed. It's a game called Flipping Death.
Oh.
We actually hung out with those developers. We were actually interviewing about the games on the other side, SteamWorld Dig and SteamWorld Heist. But we did see Flipping Death.
Yep, it's being made by Zoink.
Which is a great name.
And, I love the premise of the game. It's a platformer. It's sort of a Metroidvania game. And the premise being that your character dies shortly before the game starts. But the hilarity comes into play is because you go down into the afterlife, and Death decides, oh, I'm gonna go on vacation. Here, you take over for me.
Oh, snap.
And Death gives you the scythe and the robes, and Death is like, oh, thank you. It just shoves this on you. Like, here, you take over. I'm going on vacation to a place where there is no death. I'm going to the moon. And, like, have fun, enjoy. And you're just like, okay.
Now I'm dead.
Now, what do I do? I have no idea what I'm doing. And you get hilarious dialogue like, are you from the temp agency? And, it's just, and while you're playing this game is that you can, you learn Death's ability. You can collect souls. You can possess living people on the living world. And there's a lot of hilarious dialogue. And pretty easy to pick up and play. I mean, again, it's a platformer, so it's not going to be too heavily involved controller-wise.
Was there a piece where you can switch between the living world and the dead? I think I saw someone playing it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Well, it's like to solve some of the puzzles in the game, you are required to possess people to do it.
Oh, okay.
And I was playing this, and like 20 minutes had gone by, and I just found myself getting very, very immersed into this game and laughing at the dialogue going on. And this is a game that I'm very curious to pick up. It's not out yet, but it is going to be on the Switch, and it is definitely one that I am going to pick up. It's a very, very beautiful game. It reminds me just very slightly, at least just from the presentation of the game, like something Tim Burton would do, that sort of art style a little bit.
Yeah.
That's yeah. With that company, I'll talk about it on the day that we get to. I think it was Saturday. SteamWorld and SteamWorld Dig. I played SteamWorld Dig. And I think they're the same company, if I'm not mistaken.
They were from the same area, so they were kind of coming in together.
Oh, okay.
So they bought themselves a larger space together,
right?
And they worked together as a group, but they were individual. But they had some of the similar aesthetics, some similar styles.
Both. Well, the game I played, and I'll talk about it later. It was super, super engrossing. Same as I imagine Flipping Death was or is. And it just grabs you, and you play, and you realize it's like 10, 15 minutes in. You just, I'm still playing this awesome thing. Time just melts away is what I mean.
Yeah, it's just, that happened to me a lot this particular PAX, where I'd sit down to play a demo, and, you put the headphones on, and, like, suddenly the rest of the convention disappears.
Which is what you want to have in a game, so the fact that you can do that at a place that's as busy as a convention definitely is a fantastic thing. Did any of you guys have a chance to get into the Nintendo booth, or did you even try? Because again, that line was massive.
I did not get into the Nintendo booth because that was pretty busy all the way through, but I did manage to score some free swag from them because I have a My Nintendo account.
Yeah.
So
that kept selling out every day. But you managed to get some. What'd you get?
I got a pin. I got a My Nintendo pin, which is gonna go on my hat. And I kept wanting to get in because if you logged into your My Nintendo account, you get a QR code, and if you got there early enough, you could get a priority pass to get in front of the line. So you'd scan your QR code, and it would give you a specific time that you could get into the booth with.
Oh, wow.
And I kept getting there, even when I thought I would get there early enough. Like, it would be like one of the first things I would hit up as soon as I got on the expo floor. They were already out. So it's just... But...
I did have a chance to actually get into the booth, and they set it up. They called it the Nindies Arcade, and that's what it was. The back half of it was a lot of games that were also being shown. That was another thing. So you had an area in the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo area, which was set up for just kind of like showing off indie games. But the indie games were also either in the indie mega booth or elsewhere that they wanted to be in, which was kind of really cool that they had it set up in that way, and I was very happy about that. They had Just Shapes and Beats, they had West of Loathing, they had a whole bunch of these smaller games that I'm really excited to see come out. But they also had the larger ones. So they actually had the Crash Bandicoot trilogy in there that a lot of people had a lot of buzz about. They were really excited to see that one coming out. You had... I'm just trying to think out loud here.
I think there was ARMS and Splatoon, I think I saw.
They might have been near the front, but I was looking more at the back of stuff I haven't seen. They had Hyrule Warriors, the definitive edition, which I used to like Dynasty Warriors, so I'm kind of excited for that one for my own reasons. I was really excited just to be in that area. They had the new Neo Geo SNK game, which is all female characters, called Heroines, which was kind of a weird mix-up of a game because it was trying to have that King of Fighters feel, which is this very technical, very tough fighting game I used to play in high school, but a lot of the attacks from these characters had, like, when they'd hit someone, so there was a character called Kula, which is all ice attacks, but when she'd hit people, it would have, like, little ice cream cones and snowmen fly out in the ice at the same time. And then they had another female character called Leona, who I used to like playing as, but she's this tough chick with blue hair, and she's in, like, army pants, and she'd have attacks where she literally implants your chest with a grenade and then detonates it, and that's, like, a lot of her stuff. I did that move from memory. The move still went off, and all I saw was just, like, confetti fly out of this person's chest when that would happen instead of, like, the obvious explosion. I'm like, right. I have conflicted feelings about this. Who are you trying to market this game to? I wasn't sure what to make of it. But there was some really cool stuff in there, but it was just like a very large kind of celebration of how much Nintendo was coming out with and all the different indie games. Another thing that I'm sure you noticed is that in years past, everyone would bring their Nintendo DS for the Street Pass. I didn't almost see any Nintendo DSs everywhere. I just saw Switches on the line.
I did see a mix of both. I saw definitely a lot more Switches this go around, but there was still a considerable number of 3DSs on people. They were playing a lot of Pokemon. That's going to be popular forever. And I tried to get into a Mario Kart 8 Switch tournament, and I raced to the console tournament area, or the handheld tournament area. I got there just before 11 in the morning, and not only was the sign up full, the wait list was full. So I'm just nope, I'm not getting into that one then. But I did manage to play because I took a little break. I would go over to the handheld area, pull up a beanbag chair and just pull out my Switch and start playing. And some just random people were like, "Oh, you're playing Mario Kart? Well, let's play." And so we just hook up and start playing against each other. It was great.
That's really cool.
I
didn't really check out any of the other places aside from the expo floor and the tabletop area. I don't know. I feel like those places are really, really rad, but I've seen them before. The free play, it's a time sink for me. I'll sit down with a game and I'll play it for 2 or 3 hours, and it'll be amazing, but more expo stuff, more con stuff.
That's fair. I mean, I went to 2 panels. I mean, Thursday was
nice.
the Thursday was the easiest day, and because there were no concerts that Thursday night, I went to see a Legend of Zelda panel at 6, and then after the panel was over, I called it a night. I'm like, all right, there's nothing else that I need to do. The expo floor is closed. I'm going to go back to the hotel and have an easy night. So,
for me, I used to love panels. I still do. They're a great time for you to, sit down and take a break. And there were a lot of really, really good panels this year. However, they do have most of them, not all, but they have a lot of them on Twitch still.
Yes.
Recorded. And for me, as someone who's trying to get in with as many individual developers as possible, I don't find myself going to them as time productive. And because we had press passes, we were able to get in and kind of skip lines and get to the developers as quickly as we could. And because we missed a day, I just didn't go to almost any panels. So that was a shame. I was able to pick up on and listen to a few. I was really excited about the Blizzard ones because I do love Blizzard games in general. Heroes of the Storm is one of the few esports games that I play regularly. I play with usually my writers and a few friends that I don't get to see that often, like James, and we make 5-man teams. They brought in a character that is, oh my goodness, that character is probably 10 years old. No, 15-year-old character. They put him into their most recent Heroes of the Storm game. That was cool. They celebrated 20 years of StarCraft, so a lot of these kind of big franchises that they're very well known for were being celebrated. And then, of course, we did go to the VGO concert. Me and Alton, actually, we were so wiped after our first day because we were just kind of going nonstop. We actually didn't go into the area where the actual concert was like we have in the past. We actually found an area near the bathrooms outside that had very comfy chairs, and it had places where we could charge our phones and laptops. And so we literally had like no one else around us, and the bass was so high we could hear everything, even though we weren't actually in the concert hall.
Yeah, I actually did a smart thing this year, and I actually brought earplugs with me for the concerts because not so much to protect my hearing, but because I knew that I was going to be sitting pretty close to the front, and I knew that I wanted to hear the melodies and the music over the throbbing bass.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like I don't need. I mean, yes, I enjoy the concerts, but I enjoy them more when I can actually hear the melodies and harmonies and themes, as opposed to just constant feeling like I'm inside a vibrator. It's just one of those things. And the VGO concert Friday night, that was amazing. They got a 2-hour set just to themselves. So that Friday was all VGO. They did almost entirely music from Final Fantasy 15. In case you weren't aware, the Video Game Orchestra actually was hired by Square to record the soundtrack for that game. So they were watching. They had Square Enix's blessing. They did a bunch of music from Final Fantasy 15. They did one piece that was a medley of Tomb Raider music.
Okay.
Right.
And since you guys weren't actually in the theater, each piece they played was backed up by, they had a screen, 3 screens. You had the center screen and 2 screens off to the side of the theater where they had movies and graphics and gameplay of whatever. And for the Tomb Raider medley, they unearthed cutscenes and gameplay from PS1 Tomb Raider.
Whoa.
So I'm like, holy shit, those graphics haven't aged well.
Yeah, those first few games that had that nice blocky polygon look, just
she was hopping sideways.
Yeah.
Oh my god, those are very, very triangular breasts you have there, Lara. It's just, oh wow, you did not age well at all. But it was a great concert. I'm glad, VGO, this was their first time in 2 years that they were there, and they did not disappoint. It was a wonderful, wonderful show.
I'm glad you liked it. For me, I've noticed, this might just be my own personal take, VGO does a little bit too much grandstanding for me, where I just want to hear more of the actual really good bits, because when they do those sets, when they brought out the choirs in Latin, by the way, I did stop in there to take shots and kind of listen to 1 or 2 of them, but I mostly just wanted to sit down and calm before I had to go back and write at my Airbnb. But I went in there for the actual song or 2 that they had with the full orchestra and chorus going, and those were phenomenal once they get to it. So I definitely like the fact that there are concerts. It's one of the things that sets apart PAX East or most penny arcades from a lot of other game conventions, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's, for me, one of the biggest draws of PAX is knowing that there's going to be some video game concerts, and Just also, for me, the fact that an orchestra can draw large crowds is just, it's so nice. It is absolutely so nice. It's like, it's a nice feeling for, theaters and auditoriums can be sold out or packed to the gills for an orchestra. It's really, really something. So yeah, I think that covers mostly the first couple of days. I mean, we've got a lot more games to talk about. I think this year I demoed the most amount of games I've ever demoed at a PAX.
Same here.
Yeah, we definitely had. So Alton was awesome. He dutifully was able to carry most of my stuff. So I know that you like photography. I actually had my first professional photography setup. I had a tripod with me and a Canon DSLR that I had no idea what I was doing with, and I was learning as I went. But Adam, I always do that. Alton. I don't know why. It's both A names. Alton was able to kind of go as my photo guy, and we were able to get a lot of good photos back and forth doing it this way. And we were able to, because of the press pass, sometimes be able to talk to the developer directly and then, hey, do you want to play the game quickly? And we were able to make up for lost time by jumping to the front. And we played Dauntless. Did you get to chance to play that game?
I did not. That was one of those games that I wanted to play. That was one of the few that I missed. I mean, I saw it, but I did not get a chance to touch it.
That line was wrapping around for quite a few of those days.
Yes. Is that the Monster Hunter like game?
Yeah,
Dauntless?
yeah, that's exact. Dauntless. They gave you a choice between fighting two monsters for the demo, and they teamed you up with 4 people, so it was co-op, and you pretty much just tried to wreck the monster as it tried to wreck you. We lucked out because as press, Wyatt was able to get a recording of our fight with an owl bear.
Yeah, so they pretty much had us go against what they called an introductory monster called a shrike.
Yes.
And it was an owl that definitely had sort of like that owl bear sort of quality that you would see in Dungeons and Dragons. So it had some really good mixture of attacks, and they did give me this USB that had it recorded. So I went back and I watched the recording. I'm trying to figure out video editing to put it up on the website when I do my write-up. And one thing I just want to let you folks know right off the bat, the game recording that I got from the entirety of our fight was 18 minutes long.
Yeah, no, it was a hard fought battle.
Now, like 3 minutes of that was the loading screen, choosing our character, kind of when we all loaded in, you see everyone like what buttons do what, and you kind of see what your characters do, and then we went off to go find the guy and fight him. So the fight itself was probably about 14 minutes long to fight this one creature.
4 against 1, though. Yeah.
Did you win, or am I going to have to wait for the video to pop up?
No, we did win. Although I want to play the game and see what you get when you play the game, because obviously we play the introductory version of it, or the introductory monster, as it were, and we played as a team of 4. So we kind of all chose characters just based on how cool they looked. So I had a character that had a pair of chain swords, or like they look almost like chain axes actually. So if I used my light attacks, it was a lot of quick stuff. But if I used my heavy attacks, I was able to swing from a distance, but it used up my stamina. And I know Alton had a very different weapon than I did.
Yeah, mine was they didn't have an archer, and I usually go archers or some sort of long-range weapon, but they did have an sort of Aloy-looking character, Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, that had a hammer that was also a shotgun. So I had my ranged weapon, but I also could get up in close and like just go to town on the owlbear's face.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
So I had a chance to play this game last year. Last year they had it there as a very, very quick alpha / almost like a proof of concept, right? So they knew it was nowhere near actually being ready, but they wanted to generate hype about it. And I played it last year, and it was fun. It wasn't great. It was a fun game. It had some graphics, but I knew it had some growing to do, and they even told me that it had some growing to do. This year, it felt like a game. Mm-hmm. And actually, they just made an announcement 2 or 3 days after PAX that open beta is going to be in May.
Oh, wow.
So this game is free to play on the PC, and you'll be able to play it whenever you want. Obviously, you can buy into it to, unlock some extra custom skins, or otherwise, you probably are going to end up wanting to buy one of the introductory packs, just so that way you've got a little bit of stuff, but you won't need to spend a whole bunch of money to get into this game. And they wanted to have sort of a Monster Hunter that was a little bit easier to jump into the world and just kind of have fun with. I don't know either of you guys have played a Monster Hunter. I have tried.
Never.
And it is a very, very particular system, shall we say. The cadence of the fight is very specific. There's a very obvious grind to the game where you have to kind of build into it to get the right equipment to start playing. And they wanted to make a version of that you could jump more into immediately. Playing this game, it felt good. It felt good to be on a team. They gave us lots of items, so even though I kept getting knocked out, Alton was able to kind of run over and shake me back awake, and I'd use my healing potions to be able to jump back in the fight. Yep. You felt the contact with the animal. The animations on the monster you were fighting were fantastic.
The animations on the backgrounds themselves they went from impressionistic when you were far away, so just sort of, if you were painting it, just sort of brush strokes of green on trees, but as you move closer, the detail got a lot more crisp and amazing. I liked both images equally.
That sounds like a very, very beautifully done game right there. That's I can be a sucker for anything that indulges my art degree. So,
and it will be again free to play. So it's one of those things where there's no harm in trying it out. When the open beta hits, I'm going to be really excited to see what comes out of it. If people really fall for it, as in they really appreciate the game, they really enjoy the game, or it might just be something that they want to do every so often. Everyone's kind of got their own shtick in that way. So we'll see. Another big game that we were able to kind of jump in on that I really liked, and more than I thought I was going to, was Earthfall.
I spoke to one of the exhibitors about that game because it initially piqued my interest.
Initially? So the interest already has waned?
I'm not a huge fan of online multiplayer, not yet anyway. It's like I'm still easing my way into it, mostly because I don't have the system capable of doing that well.
So one really cool thing about Earthfall is that the easiest way to explain Earthfall to someone who hasn't heard of this game before is if you liked Left 4 Dead and you want to play Left 4 Dead but with better graphics, better cooperative missions, and just better gameplay in general, you want to play Earthfall. That's what it is. Instead of zombies, as Alton said, they've substituted those out for aliens, but because they've substituted them out, there's a lot more variety of monsters. Actually, the second time we played, I got to speak with one of the character artists, and I'm like, oh, so what do you think about the human characters? They're going to add more? He's like, oh, no. I'm the character artist just for the aliens. We don't really care about the humans. We've got the 4 basics. We might add more later, but we're more determined to add as cool versions of
variety
aliens as possible to make them feel as animated and as nuanced as we possibly can. So that was really nifty to just kind of see in general. Yeah, I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I was able to play on a team. I played once with Alton, just the two of us, alongside some people that we kind of gave a shot to. And then we also got a chance to then play it with a full team of 4 of our friends.
Right.
And that was a blast, even though we definitely got our faces wrecked that time.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
Yeah, I mean, who makes that game? That's Hollow Spark. The thing that was interesting to me about Earthfall was the fact, it's set in the future, and the way you go about creating new weapons is by using 3D printers.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, again, I'm not sure if they're going to change that or they think the game is difficult enough, but one cool thing is that ammo you have to conserve. But once you got to a 3D printer, I saw people literally just printing Remington shotguns, like, more than they needed. So you just saw, like, casings of shotguns everywhere, and they were just looting them for ammunition to stock up.
I mean, yes, you can, so...
It was definitely fun. One thing I just want to say for your listeners, that the game is going to, when I asked them about the price of the game when it comes out in full, is that it'll be more than 15, but less than 60.
Oh!
The reason why that's important is
Bit
that
of a range.
they were selling it at the convention center for $15 a key because it's in early access. I believe if I were to pull it up right now in early access, it is still $15. So they're actually doing this to reward people to stress test the game with them. So if you want to pick up the game, give it a shot now if you like that sort of gameplay. I haven't had a chance to play it since PAX. I've been catching up on regular work and house, but I do have a copy of it. I'm actually hoping to tonight play it with my brother and a few folks and see how badly we die.
And I think we're going to end the first half on that because we have gone almost an hour.
All right.
Oh, well.
So we will talk about a bunch more games that we demoed and played on the expo floor. There's definitely some more concerts and panels and stuff that I went to. So that will be a pretty full second half. So you are listening to our PAX East 2018 recap on downloadable content. Have some music. We'll go away and early access something. I don't know. But stay tuned. We'll be back. Welcome back to our PAX East 2018 recap of downloadable content. We are all still here. We have not blown our money on early access or Kickstarter yet. That'll change.
Actually, my staff has already spent, I think, over $100 on Kickstarter games since they left PAX.
I spent way too much money at PAX. I budgeted for it, but
you still spent too much.
I still spent too much. I looked at my bank account the day after PAX, after everything cleared, and I was just like,
that's gonna sting.
That's gonna sting, and I still have another week and a half left before the next payday. Oh boy. So Worth it, though.
Worth it.
Totally worth it. So, well, we're going to bring up a few more games before we talk about the rest of PAX, because there were other concerts and panels and tournaments and whatnot. So, faithful listeners of downloadable content know my opinions on early access video games.
Yes, they do.
So, I will not get into that here, but sometimes there will be a game at PAX, there's usually one a year that blows me away so much that I'm just like, all right, you know what? Here's the $10. I will take a Steam key. I love everything about this game, and gimme. I want it now. And for me this year, that game was Lightfall.
Good choice.
I don't think I heard of that one.
Go ahead.
Very, very atmospheric Metroidvania platformer game. Very, very much reminds me of Ori and the Blind Forest. That was the immediate vibe I got from this game. And, you know, it's not yet available on Steam yet. But when it does show up in early access, I do have a Steam key, and I will plunk it in so you can put it on your Steam wishlist now. Basically, you are playing as a character in a world called Numbra. Your character has no memory. Doesn't know why he, she, or it is there. It's eternally nighttime, and you have to platform your way through various challenges and whatnot. Again, it's your, platforming standard, but it looks so pretty and so atmospheric, and the music just, it sucks you right in. This was, like, again, another one of those games where, I took the controller, I put on the headset, and the rest of the convention just vanished. And
it looked really good. It's really funny because that's something that kept coming up, was that there were platformers, and that's one of the easiest things that indie developers can actually come up with, right, are platforming games. And it's amazing to me that one of the most simple forms of video game, not that I'm saying anything that there's wrong with platformers, it's one of the simpler versions of a game, that there are more and more of them that have been able to come up with something that is still unique. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I mean, we can argue both that platformers are a done-to-death type of video game, but at the same token, we can also talk about how indie developers are taking this very, very well-worn formula and still getting inspiration and success out of it.
Yes. So on that note, there was actually two others that reminded me of this, right? The first one, it was Lightfall. They were actually there last year, and I had a really good chance to hang out and talk with the developer and, say it looks phenomenal. I'm actually interested in this one because, again, platforming is not my standard.
Right.
So the fact that it was pretty much done this time was really cool to see.
I didn't actually notice them last year. I didn't even notice Bishop Games was there. They were
a tinier group. They're actually a Montreal-based company. There's a whole bunch of them. They actually went as a group called Up North Games last year. I didn't see that tag anywhere. The other two games I saw that looked really, really, really cool was, number one, they had a phenomenal brain fart. The other one that we found that actually made Alton stop in his tracks as well was Projection.
Oh, yeah. Projection was amazing. I think that was Australian or New Zealand. Maybe Australian. And I was speaking with one of the developers, and they were talking about how the game is going to go through multiple myth stories. So it's not just one culture's myths. They're going to look at Indian. They're going to look at Norse mythology. But the premise of the game is you're moving through these platforming levels, controlling light, and the shadow is the platform that you're using to move through the level. So wherever you can elongate a shadow or shorten a shadow to make a bridge across is how you move through the level.
Whoa! I pulled it up now on my computer here. How did I miss this?
Yeah, it was called Projection, and you were playing, actually, I believe you were playing a little girl from Germany, so Grimm's Fairy Tales. And then you actually, the level they were showing off was one where you're going through part of the Ramayana from Indonesia. Yeah. It was one of those things that if you saw it, it took your breath away from it, and you had to kind of ask for more.
Stop. Yeah.
So
Shadow Play
it's all
Studios.
shadow puppet imagery. So like the game design is a girl. She's got like the cutouts on her, and it's all shadow, playing with shadow and light, and those are always fun and clever, I find.
Shadow Play Studios. They're based in Sydney, Australia.
There we go.
Now you've got some time on this one. They said that they're probably shooting for a 2019 release.
So this game's been in development for a while because their press kit was saying TBA 2017. So this game has been in development since 2015. So
it's going to be a while. Yep. Which is fine.
And that's fine. It was just initially what happened was, according to the press kit, it said that they were initially making this game in a program called Game Maker. And because they didn't have a lead programmer, the game suffered technical limitations, and they're remaking the game again using Unity.
You know what? I vaguely remember them saying something like that. So,
but yeah, I'm looking at the visuals of that. How the hell did I pass this one by? That looks amazing.
Glad we could turn you on to that one. The other one I saw was one called Semblance. Now, there was a group there called Good Shepherd Studios. It's another one of these things I keep seeing larger and larger, where it is an indie game publishing company that is grabbing things and trying to give them more and more hype. Good Shepherd Studios actually made a very big point of having a very large booth for indies, and each game they had was from a different country. I'm trying to remember which one Semblance was from, but you're essentially playing as a very large blob of purple goo, but the level is mutable and destructible by moving around on it. So it has very, very great art, very different from the other two. Each one of the art styles of these games is very different. But the thing about this is that you can actually mutate the level to get what you need done.
So I remember the name, I just don't remember what it looked like. So I had to pull it up. And even now, I think I passed this one by.
Just going to show you that you could go to PAX for all 4 days and still miss a ton of stuff. But
exactly.
So just as an idea, like those three are like very basic classical style of platformers, but each one of them is wildly different and still a blast just to watch. So,
well, I think now, seeing these, I'm noticing again, the platformers that we've mentioned again. While the platformers that we grew up with they've kind of all been like, beat this level, get to the next level, and so on, repeat until you get to the final boss.
Right.
Indie developers are taking the platforming genre and are now injecting emotion. They're injecting. It plays to more of your senses than just get to the checkpoint. Get to the end level boss, move on.
Defeat the end level boss and win the gold. Yeah.
This is more of a, yes, there is still an objective, but take your time and soak it up.
Enjoy the experience.
As opposed to and race to the end of the level. So, but I'm gonna. It's on Steam as Projection First Light.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So it is Shadow Play Studios along with Sweaty Chair, and the publisher is Blowfish Studios. So
Nice.
According to Steam, it's going to be available second quarter this year. But again, we shall see. But it looks gorgeous. It looks absolutely gorgeous. So, shifting slightly away from platformers, another game that I saw, and over the break, Wyatt actually got to talk with the developer of this. I'm blaming Mario and Rabbids for slowly getting me into tactical RPGs at this point. It's City of the Shroud. We'll see if I do a complete 180 and pick up Final Fantasy Tactics, but
well, actually, I got a chance to talk with the developer, so before you describe it, let me give you a little bit of backstory. The developer loved Final Fantasy Tactics like I did, and I kind of jokingly mentioned, that's where you got this term, right? He says, well, funny story. What happened was that about a year or two ago, I said I really like Final Fantasy Tactics, let me open it back up and play. So he did, and then he went, holy crap, I just played the first introductory level and it took half an hour. I don't have time for this anymore in my version of life. What if I made a version of Final Fantasy Tactics that didn't take half an hour to beat a level?
Interesting.
That was his initial premise. Now, obviously, it's gone a little bit further past that point, as I'm sure you got a chance to see.
Yes, I got to play this, and the person who was explaining the game to me described it as a cross between... He says, imagine XCOM and Street Fighter.
Okay, I can see that.
And as I was playing it, the thing I noticed was that, yes, it is a tactical RPG, but it also has elements of an action RPG because it's not necessarily pick your commands and then watch them play out. The enemies are attacking you while you are picking your commands. So there's a bit of there's that tactical RPG layout where you're planning and moving and whatnot, but there's also that sort of active time element of like old Final Fantasy games where while you're picking your attacks and coordinating what to do, the enemy can and do attack you. So yes, there is some planning and strategy involved, but now you're injecting a little bit of thinking on the fly as well. You're like, do I want to wait and build up my stamina to do a massive combo attack? Or, crap, he's attacking me, I don't have a lot of stamina built up, let's just get these 1 or 2 quick hits in now.
That's really cool. I'm just looking at my notes. Sorry. The games that I played on Friday were Dungeon Stars and goodness, I'm blanking on the name.
Like shit, I can't read my own handwriting.
Well, no, I had just thought of another one, but I couldn't remember it. And I'm just going to describe what it is. It was a game where they took... You can make a choice of what type of game you wanted to play and your character, and they just hyper mash it together. And the amount of combinations you could make with these different games were... you can make about 50 games with the genre, the character, and I forgot the other piece. So I'm doing a poor job of
I don't remember this game.
Yeah,
was I there with you?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, that's why I don't remember it. Okay, I feel better now.
No, it was a game where you. What ended up happening for me is I picked action adventure, platform, and so what ended up happening was this sort of Spyro-like game on this island, and then you go through the level, through the demo, they give you this box at the end, and you can pick another thing, and it turned whatever you played into another game. So I played a platformer game that was also racing because they changed my character into a car. And so there was this weird sort of, hey, we're going to take a bunch of these concepts for games that you know and you love. We're going to throw them in a blender. We're going to hit puree, and you're going to play the result. And you can do this a bunch of different times in a bunch of different ways, with different combinations.
I feel like I'd go crazy.
Yeah, it was a bit sort of hectic, but what I saw of it, like the animation was smooth, the character development and design rather was pretty solid. But it was a bit busy. But that wasn't Dungeon Stars. Dungeon Stars is a side-scrolling sort of dungeon crawl game where you play between three characters, each with a different elemental base. So there was a sort of princess character that was flame-based. There was like a troll that was ice-based, and like sort of ninja character that was poison-based, and you fought the denizens of this dungeon based on a sort of rock, paper, scissors mechanic where fire would defeat ice and ice would defeat poison and poison would defeat fire. And so you had to pick and choose and sort of strategize which of your characters were better equipped to fight the monsters in the dungeon. I only got to play as poison and fire. The character designs were really, really cool. Sort of cutesy.
It looked goofy,
yeah.
But once we finally had a chance to actually sit down and play the game, I was expecting to be like, okay, we'll be here for 5 minutes and thank them for their time. And then Alton sat down for 15 or so and was just barreling through the levels.
Yeah, I was crushing through I found a secret level, and it was like going through that. That's what ended up killing me. Like I defeated all the levels that were a part of the demo, but then I moved through the secret level, and then the final boss is what destroyed me. But it was a lot of fun. And then SteamWorld Dig, which I mentioned before, which is a cross between Super Metroid and Dig Dug. So you play a robot who digs through the earth, and you find different power-ups, and you essentially fight robots and other creatures in the earth. It's really, really cool.
The last games I think I want to mention, because there was quite a few, and what I've learned as trying to be a press person is you have to learn very quickly which games are worth your time to stick around at and which ones aren't. So a lot of times in the past, I've ended up walking by and like, oh, I'm interested in your game, I want to write about it. And then I get sucked into a game that I'm listening to for 15, 20 minutes that I am not interested in. So me and, again, Alton, we were able to kind of look at a game and go, nope, and then keep moving.
Yeah.
The games that end up really sucking me in that I really enjoyed that I haven't mentioned yet, I did have a chance to play the new World of Warcraft. We did play the new mission for that, just to give it a shot. It's more World of Warcraft. If you like World of Warcraft, you will enjoy this version of World of Warcraft. I had never
played World of Warcraft.
So we tried playing. It was a 3-on-3 against 3 Horde players. We were the 3 Alliance. We got crushed like tin cans. It was terrible. Murder everywhere. We ended up respawning 100 times. We still got really nifty pins. It was a fun experience, but again, it's only if you really like that sort of game that you're really going to like this. The one that I really found myself loving, and I will be getting at the end of this month, it's actually coming out, I think, within a day of Dungeon Stars, which we're going to review Dungeon Stars, and I think we're actually going to get some giveaways for that one. Yeah. But the game I'm looking forward to is Frostpunk.
Oh, yeah.
This was the game that made the convention center melt away for me. And the reason for that is that this is the same person that made This War of Mine, which, Brian, you probably know or have at least heard of that game.
Absolutely, I have.
Same company, from what I know of, same developer. And what Frostpunk is it's not just like you and a few people in this house during a war. It's the world has ended in some way, shape, or form. So, of course, I like my apocalyptic survival games, so I'm already in. But it's during an ice age of some sort. So your people have traveled north into this kind of icy abyss area to survive, and there's this giant 5-story, 6-story generator of coal. That's just a giant furnace, essentially. And you have to keep this sucker going at all times because it is negative 20 to negative 40 degrees Celsius outside while you're playing this game. So imagine a SimCity style game from above, but a little bit smaller in scope, and you're trying to create a survival camp.
And you have to make hard choices.
So, yeah, you do have a technology. Well, there is an actual technology tree, but then you have a tree called the Book of Laws, or the Book of Adaptations, and you have to make choices in this tree that will unlock new things for you to get, but you have to choose between them. So, Brian, which I know you'll appreciate, you have to choose one example, which is, do you want to unlock the ability to build a cemetery? Why would you need that? Well, people are going to die because it's the middle of winter. There's going to be lots of people working in negative degree temperatures. And if you unlock the cemetery, then you will have a little bit more hope put into your group because you actually have these two bars of hope and discontent. And you have to keep those suckers balanced to make sure that your community doesn't break down and give up. So if you build a cemetery, you'll actually have more hope because the idea is that you're feeling a little bit more human. You have more of a...
You're honoring your dead.
You're honoring your dead, all that. Or the other option is you can just throw them into a snow pile. Which lowers it because then you know you're not going to take care of your dead. However, I found out afterwards, because it does not reveal the consequences as much until you make your choice of what the next ones in this kind of ever-branching tree of social choices is, that if I had kept the snow pile one, yes, I would have lost some hope in the short term, but if you do have ceremonies for like a cemetery, it takes time away from the workday, which means that you'll have less workers for a little while people die. But if you do the body pile, it unlocks an ability later on in the tree called organ harvesting. Now, I don't know what this does, and I'm not sure why, but I have some ideas because there were some really rough choices on the medical side of things for me to choose from. There was a choice about whether or not you were going to allow child labor or not.
Yep. I think that one stood out to me.
Organ harvesting. And now for your Repo the Genetic Opera portion of the game.
Yeah, so like you have this game where it's really hard choices on top of kind of trying to build this community. And it looked like there was going to be some exploratory ways where you could send out scouts, and it looked like it was going to grow to be even larger. But again, if I had stayed on that game, I could have stayed on that for 4 hours straight. So I had to move on. Definitely going to be worth it.
Looking at the game, like from an observer watching someone play it, it was just a pretty game. Like you'd think just Snow White expanse would get no attention to graphics or detail, but you get the tiny characters moving through the snow and you see the tracks of the snow. You get to see them building stuff. Like the snow has dimension to it. Just the animation in and of itself is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I would also say that one thing about it is like when you first get there and you find packs of coal or debris in the snow and you're trying to harvest it with your workers, you can actually see your characters trudging through the snow and making the lines in it and kind of working through the snowbanks. And you kind of get to see that blossoming. And so it was definitely a really cool game. Definitely going to be worth checking out at the end of this month.
That sounds interesting. I might have a look at that. So, I think just very briefly, two more games that I want to close with because I know we've got a bunch of other stuff to talk about. I played a survival horror game on the Switch. Yeah, I know that sounds weird. Survival horror on Nintendo. But the game is called, and the game is actually out. It's called Layers of Fear Legacy.
Okay, I didn't even see that one.
Me neither.
It is a psychological horror game. You play as a painter, and you are trying to create your magnum opus, your best painting. This is what you're going to be remembered forever by, but you're also going mad in the process.
Like you do.
So you're walking through and you're learning the story of your past while you're getting items that can be found in the game, and the house that you're in is constantly changing. It's full of like supernatural phenomena, and something I really noticed is that each time you move the camera, the environment can shift. Like, you'll walk through a door into a hallway, and then say you turn around, and where that door was is now a wall. And this had me very curious. It's like, okay, I think we're taking the starving artist idea to its most murderous extreme here, and it looked really, really interesting. And it's out on the Switch. I think it's out on PC as well. And the last one I will talk about is one that both Alton and I played, called Phaland.
Yes.
Which is a Metroidvania action-adventure RPG video game. It uses pixel art style, which they say they're inspired by 8-bit and 16-bit games. And it's I mean, the demo we played was the starter level, and it was already pretty difficult. Things are out to kill you.
Yep.
Things are bad.
I mean, you're in this medieval kingdom, and you have your hero, your blonde-haired, green tunic, hero, not Link, and it's a Metroidvania, but it's pretty open. You can go from one town to another pretty quickly. It very early on reminded me of Zelda 2 on the NES, just without the I am error, the I am error NPC. But, what did you... I enjoyed it. It's gonna be out on Kickstarter. The Kickstarter goes live for this on April 17th. What did you think, Alton? You look like you were enjoying it.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of games like that. I have been since I was very young, and it was one of those games where memory is a factor. Yes. Like the levels reset once you leave a certain area, and it was very clean, very polished, and so you're hopping and you're moving around, and you have to remember that there's like a little hidden vine creature that pops up when you step close to it, and it's right on that platform, so you got to jump over it or just before it and hit it, or remember to hit it just to move forward, and it was a lot of fun. I'm super excited to see if there's like an actual story to the piece, or if it's just slogging through just monsters and just a game of memory.
Well, yeah, I mean, according to the little flyer they gave me, they say that according to the story, in a fantasy world, humans have established their kingdom through centuries of peace to keep a safe margin with the dark forces of magic and monstrous beasts which lurk away from civilization. Our hero will begin a new adventure and forge new alliances to uncover a larger plot that threatens the survival of the entire realm. Ooh! So, again, Kickstarter goes live on the 17th. We'll see if it's successful, and I hope it is. It looks like a lot of fun.
It definitely, tickled my nostalgia.
Yes, absolutely, because, this looks like 18 and 16-bit game, and I grew up with those, and yay! So, but don't you notice, and both of you, don't you notice that as with each PAX that goes by, the less reliance on nostalgia indie developers are embracing now? It's like I've definitely noticed a shift where indie devs have moved more and more away from pixel art and nostalgia to more immersive, I guess, quote unquote, experiences.
I would say that, and I definitely feel like they needed to. I definitely like the nostalgia element in a lot of ways, and it was very important and relevant to kind of bring that back and remind people that games don't always have to have the best graphics known to mankind.
Right.
But the market was oversaturated, and so I'm glad that they have been able to adjust or be able to become more inventive.
Yes, especially, now that they have access to, a lot of developers have access to the Unity engine, as well as VR. I mean, so a number of games with VR, I didn't play any because, I mean, I get motion sickness so easily that it's like I really wanted to play the VR game, the VR jousting game. I don't know if any of you two,
I walked by that a few times. It looked hilarious, but I had things to do.
While I was playing Dungeon Stars, it's right next to that booth. So I had the headphones in, I'm playing the game, but every so often I would hear just people primal yelling at each other as they
screaming loudly.
And I'm just like, oh, if I did not get if I wasn't so easily susceptible to motion sickness, I would love that game. Just be like, it's so hamtastic. I loved it. I watched it and it was just, oh, it looked so good. So, all right. Unless you have anything else you want to add for video games, I know there's definitely tabletop to be talked about.
Yes. So I'm going to make a disclaimer here. I did get to play a lot of really good board games. Cursed Crowns was really good. I bought that. That was really cool. Cool Stuff Inc. was there. So they were there at PAX Unplugged.
Yes.
And if you don't know who Cool Stuff Inc. is, they're the people that kind of sponsor, the Dice Tower and a few other big ones. But they always have large racks of board games, and they start ratcheting down the prices as they go. But they're an online retailer that actually show up to conventions. Oh, nice. So I was able to pick up some games that I've really loved for a while, and I was able to get a nicer price. I got Raxon, for example, which is a game set in the Dead of Winter universe that is very hard to access. So I was able to pick that up. But for games that had just come out or were coming out in right around this time period, and they were debuting for the first time, the one that I really liked, I have two. One was Clank, and I played that with Alton.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with Clank, Clank is a fantastic game that's been out for a while, and they were showing off the new expansion for it. Clank is a game where you're pretty much playing as thieves trying to break into a typical Dungeons & Dragons style dungeon, but you're trying to book in as quickly as possible, grab loot,
whatever you can,
get the hell out.
Get out.
You're not playing on a team. Each of you is an individual thief, and the thing is that there's usually a big bad, a dragon of some sort. And what happens is that there's artifacts of different values. So there's like a 5 value, a 10 value, up to a 30 value. And when you grab one, it kind of sets off a chain reaction of terrible things, where it's a deck builder. So you have a deck of cards, and most of them are good, but one of them generates Clank, the name of the game. And Clank is pretty much a little tiny cube of your color that you put on the board, and whenever a card is pulled that wakes up the dragon, you take all those cubes and put them into a bag that also has dragon cubes in there, and you start pulling out cubes which are your damage. As the dragon is hunting your ass down, is trying to devour you, breathe fire onto you, and end your life.
So if you pull out a cube of your color, you get damage. It's essentially how damage is scored. The fun bit of it is moving through the dungeon, getting down to the level. As you're doing that, you're also doing other setting off other ways for the dragon to get more powerful, attack more often.
Mm-hmm. Like dragon eggs.
Dragon eggs.
You can find dragon eggs, which are worth some victory points at the end of the game, but they make the dragon show up more often.
Yep. And so, once you've got that piece of loot, you have to find a quicker way out of the dungeon. And the mechanic of it is if you get above, because there are two sides to the board, if you get to the part that is above ground, but you die, say you die, the lore is that villagers find your body, they drag you, you still survive, but you don't essentially win the game. But if you're caught and you die below the line, underground, you just die.
You lose all of your victory
points. Just don't matter.
However, if you're the person that makes it out and you get out to the surface and you break free, not only do you get an extra coin that gives you like an extra 20 victory points, which is a lot in this game, but now every time it's your turn, you don't go anymore. The dragon attacks again automatically, so it's a timer.
And any cubes that are in there that are picked for you don't count. So.
Clank has been on my radar for at least a year now. It's definitely interesting. I'm running into that problem. It's like I have a closet full of board games, and not enough people where I live to actually play them. It's like, oh, all right, I want this game, but will I ever be able to play it?
Well, Alton now has the base game and the expansion. The expansion was the Mummy's Curse. It adds a mummy into the game because, of course, you need more terrible things hunting your ass down.
Yep.
Adds the ability for you to get cursed, which reduces your victory points. The game is really fun. It has a lot of awards for good reason. One of them is simply because this is a really great game of making a deck builder, not just a deck builder, because there is a board that you're moving your character through.
Right.
And the other is that it has a really fun push your luck, where I've seen people where what they do is they wait for everyone to get as deep down as they can. They grab just the 5-pointer
The 5-piece, yeah.
artifact, and everyone goes, "No, you
roll.
didn't." And then he books out of there, and the dragon is just bombarding everyone else that's in there, trying to kill them. Or you have the person that gets really lucky, gets all the way in, and gets the biggest artifact. So there's a lot of intenseness to this game, which is a good thing.
Little background into my sort of gaming life. I have played video games for ever, like since I was very, very young, through SNES and all that stuff. I am not primarily a board gamer. So when I sit down and play a board game, I have to understand it in that first go, or I'm not going to, I'm not going to find it interesting. I'm not going to gravitate toward it. Clank is one of the not very first, but it's one of the first games that I've sat down at and fully understood it right off the bat, gotten through it, lost but was okay with it, enjoyed the entire run through on multiple occasions, to the point where, hey, I've bought a board game. It's one of the few board games that I own. I thoroughly enjoy it, and that the expansion was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Awesome. And I know that you guys also picked up and took part in the tournament for Master of Wills.
Yes. Although that's going to segue into our tournament section, because I know you had some tournaments you wanted to talk about.
Yes, yes.
Did you have any tabletop you want to mention first?
I think for me this year for me was the PAX that I think I spent the least amount of time with tabletop. There was just so much on the show floor for video games that tabletop was not quite an afterthought, but I did not go to the tabletop areas and vendors with a specific aim in mind.
Right.
But I did pick up because April demanded it. There was a board game, Bob Ross, The Art of Chill game, which I haven't cracked open yet. But I messaged April. I said, I showed her a picture of the game, and she said, "Shut up and take my money." And I said, "I'll buy it right now if you want." Yes. And when my wife, the non-gamer, says, "Get this game," you get the game. But it looks like the basic premise is that, you're trying to just paint a picture, in the board game, and you're trying to be the most chill.
The most relaxed.
The most Bob Ross, and I'm like, oh, this is like Laudanum the board game. It's
in a good way.
I think so. I'm eager to crack it open. I'm waiting until both April and I no longer have Plague to actually crack this open. I mean, I also picked up the regular edition of Catan because I didn't have a set, and I know April really likes that game. I also picked up Doctor Who Flux. So, but tabletop was by and large for me, not the bulk of my PAX experience this go around. So.
What was that game we played with outsourcing?
Okay. Japanime Games? Yeah. So Japanime Games is that group that always has the games where it has rather risque art from Japan. But they did have a few. They did have a few games that did not have that said risque art. They had one called Demon Worker.
That's what it was called.
Where it was a worker placement game with really cartoonish, very cartoony, grotesque art. And the idea is that you're all high-end demons, and you are essentially trying to you're essentially trying to win objectives and missions to show that you're the most evil overlord. And it was a very small game, like $30. It had just come out in America, so they were trying to show it off. And the way you played the game was simply by the way you played the game was simply by having different cubes. You'd set up cards, which were different areas you could send your workers to, and you were trying to recruit more and more demons to be on your side. So that could be things like ghosts or zombies or evil unicorns. Like it was very cartoonish, really silly art, and not always a bad thing. It just seemed like it was a very silly, very fun game. We had a good time playing it. There was a lot of board games there, and what I was really happy about is that there was a lot of board games that were there that that were also on the show floor, so that it wasn't just consigned to that kind of area off to the side,
right,
which was really nifty for me to see. So that kind of made me really happy, just in general. But a lot of them I had already played, like White Wizard Games has the Hero Realms. I already had that, so I didn't feel a need to. The one I did pick up some games that I'm going to be trying out and reviewing soon, but I didn't really have a chance to sit down and really play through them. There was Pixel Glory 2 that was there. The one game that really got my attention, made me really fall in love with it, was Master of Wills. So this will segue into tournaments. So Master of Wills is a game that was set cyberpunk, and the art was amazing. The artist was there, so that was one thing that immediately got both my attention and Alton's. And we sat down, and again, it was very easy to understand, but it was a very different board game than many others.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played a game like it. It's essentially tug of war with
people.
With people, essentially.
Yeah. Tug of war with people is essentially the best way that you could try to write this game off as.
There are three. Each side has three zones: recruits, loyalists, and allies. And your job or your goal is to get characters to your side. If you get them to allies, they're locked in. They can't be pulled to the other person's side. And the way you pull people to the side, in the top right corner, there is a corresponding color, and then either a plus or minus and a number. And that means that color gets either pushed or pulled any in that amount. Sorry, can't speak. In that number amount. So say a card says brown +2 in the top right. That means all brown cards, all brown cards.
Oh, just one.
Or just one. Sorry. I found out you can split them too.
Yes, you can.
So brown cards will get pushed, or rather pulled, 2. So they'll come to you by 2. Or, that's how that works.
Right. So you have these sort of like 7 zones. You have the community where everyone shows up in, and what's really cool is it's sort of like, imagine when you have that kind of ball of string that's knotted up and you pull on the end of it and you kind of see where all the issues are. That's a major way this game plays, because what you do is that you would see a really good card in the middle that's worth a lot of victory points, but oftentimes if you take that card and it ends up on your side of the board, it would have things where it would take various other colors and push them onto the enemy side of the board, meaning that they would get points. Now, it's random. There's 120 different cards in the community deck that will show up. And when they appear, it will, some of them are actually have negative correspondence. Sometimes they'll have an extra effect. And what you're trying to do is get as many points onto your board at the end of 8 turns as possible. Sometimes it means you're going to want to try to just lock them in. Other times it just means you want them on your side of the board as quickly as possible. And you have to kind of figure out the cause and effect of what the hell is going to happen on the board.
Right.
This is compounded by one other issue, which is you are playing as 2 different kind of groups that are trying to control the populace. And each group has their own set of cards that they can play with. And it's actually that set of cards you play with, you can actually build a 20 to 30 card deck before the game begins, like Magic the Gathering or otherwise. And when you have that kind of set of cards on your own, you can specialize to do particular things. So I had a set that let me kill cards off the board and revive other ones that had already been kind of knocked off onto my side of the board. So I could go through the deck of discard pile and try to find ones that were worth a lot of points and bring them onto my side. while other ones just outright kill things that are on the board very easily, or they manipulate them so if they would show up on your side, they kind of teleport onto the opponent's side of a particular color. Each color also corresponded to a type of character. So like blue was the police, red was government, orange was like entertainers or kind of dance nightclub scene.
Yeah, brown was like religious or something.
Yeah, brown was religious. So the game was very, very unique. I haven't seen a game like that before, and it was pricey. It was $60 to get into the game. And I wanted to get everything because they had the additional art there and they had a bundle for it, and I got some art prints with it. But I was hemming and hawing about this game, and I was pulled over because they were really good salesmen, right, Brian? They sold me on this game because me and Alton were kind of like, maybe we'll come back on the last day and buy it. And like, right. Well, tonight we're going to have the first tournament of this game. And the winner of this tournament will have their persona, their personage, put into the game by our artist as a character card.
Yep.
To be forever immortalized.
As one of these... And remember, this is a game called the Game of Intrigue and Manipulation. So I was like, okay, I'm in.
Wyatt the board game. It should be called Wyatt the board game.
I'm not that much of a jerk. I just like those sort of characters in Dungeons and Dragons and otherwise. But me and Alton actually joined the tournament only having played one game.
Yep.
I couldn't resist. We bought the game at 6 p.m. right as the place closed on the expo hall floor. The tournament was at 8 o'clock. We
spent an hour just building our decks.
Like coming up with strategies for a game we've barely played. It seems really solid because it's an easy enough game for you to kind of get the ideas of quickly. Mm-hmm. But we found out very quickly that it could be very complex because I sit down next to a guy and I'm like thinking, I have a chance of winning this because there's only about 20 people here.
Yep.
This was the first tournament. It wasn't really advertised on any big floor or anything. The game's trying to generate that first hype. And I'm thinking I have a chance. And I sit down, these four guys are joking, and they're like, all right, I think we're ready. And I said, oh yeah, how many times have you played? They're like, well, we saw the game on Thursday. We bought the game Friday morning. We left the convention early around 2 or 3 p.m. And they played till midnight.
Yep.
Well...
Like, they sped run, reread the rules, and just played against each other to make perfect decks, and then showed up. So promptly, I got smashed so hard that the developers that were walking back and forth, kind of showing their first ever tournament, went, holy crap, what happened to you? Yeah. How are you getting crushed this badly? So I was laughing. This was hilarious to me. It stunk to get crushed, but like he used the right moves on me. The right luck got pulled, so I wasn't allowed to like grab 2 or 3 colors of cards at any point. But it was worth the experience. Alton actually managed a bit better than I did in this.
Yeah, I lost, but I had 74 points to his 76 to 84.
Something like that.
8.
Yeah,
that's a bit closer.
Yeah, and it was really funny because I had the same sort of experience where the guy I was going up against, I think his name was Andy, he was like, yeah, me and my friends, we bought it yesterday, we went home, we played it, and got like super trashed playing it, but we played like a bunch of games, and we like after the game, I was like, can I see what the cards that you picked? And we had the same deck. So we had, I think, Razor Core.
Yeah.
And with exception to maybe 2 or 3 of the cards, we had picked the exact same deck. And I had made plans to do things that he had done like a turn before me. So he got like a turn to just wreck me. And I would have come back if I had done a few things differently, but like the decks were exactly the same, well, with the exception of a few of them, and it's just funny to see how 2 minds can work like that.
So yeah, I had never actually been to a tournament in PAX history just because I was always so busy trying to see new stuff. But this was a very unique experience that you could not get at a penny arcade typically. So it was more than worth it for me to give this sucker a shot. And I was more than happy to. And what was really cool is that these guys are going to be at PAX Unplugged.
Yep.
So I'm going to be learning the game. They're going to have another unit or two show up, like a different faction, and it'll be really cool to see. I've had some time to play with Alton. We're going to probably play after this podcast is over a bit and see if we can win the next tournament.
You've got 7 months to prepare for it. It's
exactly,
and so good luck, gentlemen. So,
Thanks.
well, so you took part in the board game tournament. I usually try to enter a video game tournament, at least one, in every PAX I go to, and I usually try to pick a tournament that I think I at least will get past round 1 in. Because I learned my lesson. Never participate in a fighting game tournament.
No, those people get hardcore.
Oh my god, just never. Like, I love Super Smash Brothers, I love Mortal Kombat, I'll be pasted in 4 seconds.
Yep.
So,
Complete murder.
So, I wanted to participate. Now, last year, as you'll recall, I participated in the Super Mario Kart tournament. We're talking the original Super Nintendo, and I won second place. I got a silver medal for it. And so I'm like, okay, if they bring that tournament back, I have to defend my honor. Like, I was the runner-up. I want to see if I can at least defend, or lo and behold, win. So there were 3 tournaments that I wanted to enter. The Mario Kart Double Dash tournament, the Mario Kart 8 on the Switch, and yes, they brought back the Super Mario Kart tournament. So my friend Chris and I, we tag teamed for Mario Kart Double Dash, lost in the second round, which, okay, fine, we made it out of round 1, I'm happy. Couldn't get into the Mario Kart Switch tournament because by the time I got to the convention center, now this was only about an hour after it had opened, not only was the tournament field already filled up, but so was the wait list. So I'm just like, yeah, no, that ain't happening. And then on Sunday was the Super Mario Kart tournament. I said I raced over to the tournament section after we got into the convention center, and I signed up. So, and I wasn't even put on a wait list. I got on the initial field of 32. And so the way that the tournament is set up for Super Mario Kart is that it's not the Grand Prix, it's the versus battle mode.
Oh, snap, with the balloons.
With the balloons, yes.
I haven't done that style in forever, yeah.
So, I get there, and I'm practicing, because they'll set up 4 Super Nintendos about like 20 minutes or so before, so that you can refamiliarize yourself with the game or whatnot, and so on.
Right.
So I'm just like, yeah, it's been a while since I've played, so refamiliarize myself, and then somebody calls out to me and says, "Hey, didn't I face you in the final last year?" And I look over, and the guy who was last year's champion was also competing in this to defend his honor.
Nice.
And I said, and he's like, wouldn't it be hilarious if it's both of us again in the final? I'll give you 3 guesses as to what happened.
Yeah.
So
it ended up being you guys.
So in a rematch of last year's final, it was him and I. And the result was the same. He beat me, and he got gold again, and I got silver again. But it was hilarious that, because when we got to our first round, he would come over, he'd watch my battle, and he'd whisper into my ear, "Kill him." Crush him.
Because you guys wanted to be the ones against each other. Yeah, I get that.
And we're trained, and we get to the final, and he wins, and I ain't even mad because again, I'm gonna get another medal. So will he. And at the end of it all, he wins, and we're both laughing and hugging, and I'm just like, if we meet again next year, we're gonna have to stop meeting like this. And
that's one of the great things about PAX or these conventions in general. Same thing for the Renaissance Fair. You kind of grow your own community and you meet people. By this point, for me doing the press thing multiple times, even before I had the press pass, but just kind of doing interviews, a lot of people recognize me or the name, and it feels really cool having that sort of atmosphere with people. It
really is, especially now. You say Renaissance Fair. Now, funny story. several Rennies also go to PAX, and two of them I'm gonna call out here: Emily, who plays Lady Marion, and Anne, who plays Sybil. They're both at PAX, and they're really, really into tabletop, and they both are part of an organization called Geeks for Good. But Emily also works at the Level Up Dice booth, and she worked at the booth a couple of days, and so it's just funny to see. It's like, okay, we have Rennies who we recognize each other. There are food vendors that sell turkey legs. I see people in garb. My worlds are melding here.
Yeah.
And it's just really, really interesting to see. So, but yes, I defended my honor successfully in Mario Kart, so now I have 2 silver medals, and we'll see if I can do it again. One of his friends said, you're now his white whale. He's gonna plot his, he is...
Demise, yeah.
I said, and Ryan, as we're walking away, he's like, yeah, you're gonna need to practice. He said, the one thing about Super Mario Kart is that, you have, it's local play, so I can't play battle mode against the computer. So do you want to come over so that I can beat your ass a billion times and
just get good
and get good? I mean, you want to be my punching bag? That'll work. So that was my tournament experience. Did you guys go to any? You said you guys didn't do much with the panels.
No.
No,
I didn't go to any.
You didn't go to any.
Just the ones I mentioned before. I did go to one other tournament, and again, it was very much like the first one. I got smashed. The one thing I was really happy about, it was a game I was thinking about getting to review anyway. I was actually going to buy you a copy for a birthday at some point, Brian. The Final Fantasy trading card game.
You still can. Yeah, you've got 7 months.
I still can. I got a chance to play because they were actually demoing it at the Square Enix booth. I was worried it was going to be just kind of like, hey, look, it's Final Fantasy art. It's a card game. And like that was going to be it. It actually had a lot of nuance to it. I entered the tournament because the cost of the tournament was enough to buy a starter pack. Normally, actually, starter packs you can usually buy for like $20. I got it for $15. Got a chance to try playing the game. I got some promos that were shiny. Apparently, I played against some people that have been playing since the game came out in America a few months ago. So I got stomped again. But I had a really good time. I played with a Final Fantasy 12 deck, so I got to play as the Sky Pirates.
Oh, nice.
And so that was just a lot of fun to play through. Definitely worth checking out if you want to give it a shot. It was more nuanced than I was expecting it to be, and I was happy to play it.
Well, I mean, that's how you kind of suckered me into tabletop games to begin with, Wyatt. The Resident Evil deck building games. So, I mean, licensed properties can be a very good thing. So it's
yes. The one difference is that the Resident Evil card game was not a trading card game. It was something where if you just bought an expansion, you had everything. The
right.
Final Fantasy game is one where it's based on rarity and buying random packs, which is something that, as a reviewer, again, I like the idea of that, but I can never get into one just because I have to keep moving and playing other games.
Right, absolutely. I did go to a total of 3 panels. I mentioned the Zelda one on Thursday. I went to the Maestros of Video Games panel. That's always an annual thing for me. I get to see, a bunch of video game composers talk about their craft and whatnot, and it's always very interesting.
I might have to go with you to that one next time.
Yeah, this year there's composers on the panel. Darren Korb from Supergiant, Tom Salta, who's done some work for Halo. One of the composers for Resident Evil 7 was there. Wilbur Roger, I think his name is. He's done Call of Duty and some LucasArts.
Nice.
So yeah, just a variety of games and composers that were there, and very, very exciting. And the third panel I went to was on Sunday. It was the Homestar Runner panel.
Wow.
And just suddenly it was
2000s called. They want their life back.
Yeah. The early college, and actually getting to see the brothers Chaps, and they were there primarily to talk about the board game that they're making. They spent most of the convention in the Kickstarter Couchland room. They're making a Trogdor board game.
Of course they are.
Which, the object is to burninate. So, that was a blast. And, there was a Q&A at the Homestar Runner panel in which, they brought out the Homestar and the Strong Bad puppet. So they were responding to the Q&A in characters, which, of course, got the obligatory Strong Bad, how do you type with boxing gloves on? In which Strong Bad then called for the enforcers. So, and then, again, you guys went to the VGO concert. I went to the Saturday night concerts as well. I got to see Paul and Storm, which are always hilarious. I
don't think I've ever sat for a Paul and Storm concert.
They are absolutely nerdily hilarious. They haven't done anything new in the last couple of years. They are writers for the new Mystery Science Theater.
Really?
So they've been writing a lot of riffs and the songs for the revival of Mystery Science Theater. So that's what they've been doing. Power Glove was after. I don't know if any of you have heard Power Glove, but
I have heard of them.
Yes,
Eric was very excited, and I just did not have time for that.
Power Glove is a hair band. They are a heavy metal, power metal hair band that specialize in heavy metal covers of video game music and other, nostalgic themes. So their set was sprinkled with various video game themes, but also themes from Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, wow.
So let me just very quickly pull up the set list, because this was definitely one of those nostalgia sets. Set list for Power Glove. They opened with Metroid, Tetris. They did a mashup of the Mortal Kombat movie theme combined with the Metal Man stage from Mega Man 2. They did the opening for the X-Men cartoon.
Oh my god.
They also did the opening theme for Pokemon, had the entire audience singing. And they closed with the opening theme for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
That's amazing.
So, I have a few of their albums. They're really, really nice. And this is the first time I got to see them live. So, again, very glad I had earplugs for that. And
is this the first time that they were here? Or have they been here before?
That was the first time, yeah.
Oh, okay. I like that PAX does that. They let not random, but different over a variety of musicians come and show up.
The one other concert I saw was not in the main theater. This was at the Jam Space. This was a group that was there last year on the main stage, the Videri String Quartet.
Yeah. And
this was actually the show that filled the Jam Space to capacity. They actually, I was on my way to the Jam Space, and I got there about half an hour early, so there was still another performance going on. But without realizing it, I had inadvertently sat right next to Darren Korb while he was tuning up.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I wanted to just have a conversation with him about, his music for Supergiant, but internally,
Fanboy.
I was screaming like a fangirl. Yeah, I was just I knew that if I started to say anything intelligible, it would just become, So
I love your music.
Yeah, basically, yeah, because he told me that he was performing with the quartet, and I was just like, oh, this is gonna be fun. So the jam space was packed. I got in, I sat in the front row, but so many people came in to pack the floor on the front, and they actually closed the doors because it was filled to capacity. And, it's your standard string quartet. It's, 2 violins, a cello, and a viola. And, they open with Chrono Trigger. They open with Chrono Trigger, and then immediately after that, they do a medley of pieces from Bastion. And with Darren Korb singing setting sail, going home, along with somebody from the quartet singing "Build That Wall."
That's my favorite song.
Yeah, no, the Supergiant games, their booth was great, but again, I already own all of their games and all of their stuff, so I didn't have a need to go back there. Their
nice
soundtracks
vinyl.
are fantastic. Yeah, they did have new vinyl sets of all of their music.
Yes, and it was a 1 hour set, but it was a very full set. They did the main theme from Chrono Trigger, then they did the Bastion medley, then they did the Dragon Roost Island theme from Wind Waker.
Come on.
They did the main theme from Digimon.
Of course they did.
And then halfway through, they started playing a medley from Ori and the Blind Forest, which they're playing it, and I'm going, I recognize this. I know I've heard this before. Why am I crying? I've heard this before. Why am I crying? Oh, it's Ori. That's why. The most emotional platforming game I have ever played.
I'm gonna put it on my list.
And then after they did that, they said, okay, we're not going to talk between each song, so this next thing we're going to do needs no introduction. And I didn't know what the fuck they were playing. But everybody else in the audience knew.
What was it?
Star Wars medley.
Oh.
They played a bunch of themes from the recent movies. And I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what the hell they're playing. And at the end of it, they're like, So what was that we just played? And somebody yelled, Star Trek! Indiana Jones! And so I'm like, oh, okay. Yoshi's Island.
Shit.
Then probably the best quartet version of One Winged Angel I've ever heard.
Right.
Are they going to be at next PAX?
I hope so. And then the two they closed with was one was from the anime. I think it's an anime. Ruby.
Yes.
They played Mirror Mirror.
Okay.
And they closed with the Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1. It was
When's their next concert?
Well, check their Facebook or their webpage.
Doing it right now.
So, again, I go to PAX for the indie devs, but also these concerts. Those are the two biggest draws to me. So, I mean, now we've gone about 2 hours, so, wind down, put a bow on it. So what did you think overall?
I loved it. This was definitely my most successful PAX in the form of what I do for Sprites and Dice. I definitely really thoroughly enjoyed the experience overall, and I always learn more every year in terms of how to enjoy myself, and then also what I do for my job. So we got the most writing we've ever done at PAX, so for that I actually had to miss out on some stuff that I would have rather gone to by going home a little bit early, writing, playing games back at the place, and kind of like digesting everything that I had seen, writing my notes down. But at the same way, I was able to enjoy my PAX more because of it, if that makes any sense.
I thoroughly enjoyed this PAX. I played a lot of games that I normally wouldn't, and I found that I enjoyed them immensely. I bought another game. I think I buy at least one game at every PAX, and it's a game that, yeah, it's a game that I play over and over and over again. I got out of my comfort zone with regards to certain games, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I was yearning for PAX the 2 weeks prior just because of work and life and all that stuff. It's just got to get to PAX. And then I got there and I'm just like, this is what it is. This is what it's about. I thoroughly enjoy it.
It's no mistake that the motto for Penny Arcade Expos is "Welcome Home."
Yeah,
it really is.
That's appropriate.
I mean, I really had a blast. I think if I had any criticism at all about this PAX, because this year was the first time that they expanded to 4 days. Mm-hmm. I think just for me, just personally that 4 days might have been slight overkill. I say that only because I never, ever have gotten con crud from PAX. And I think that just 4 days, I had a blast. I think that I might have overexerted myself just a bit. And seeing how relatively quiet it was on that Thursday, makes me think that perhaps next year, maybe I don't need to go that first day and still get the 3-day PAX experience as opposed to the 4.
Right.
I mean, I still got, because again, that Thursday, while I really enjoyed the quiet and relative peace, knowing that the next 3 days were going to be, balls to the wall insane, not everybody was there. Again, there were vendors and devs that weren't there, so it felt like a slightly incomplete day. So that first day, maybe next year for me personally, I might decide, I might save the hotel fee and, the $53 to get in. It might not be a requirement that I be there that first day, but still going Friday, Saturday, Sunday, of course. So,
right.
But that was just, that's a personal thing. It's that extra day does tack on a considerable extra expense.
It will be interesting to see what they do, because I know that some people that were in the convention really liked the extra time, while other ones did not. So it'll just be really interesting to see which way they go when they finally get there, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah, I get there. I mean, because you guys didn't go there on Thursday, you weren't there for day one. I mean, you still got basically the essential PAX experience Friday, Saturday, Sunday anyway.
I felt pretty crappy about missing the first day. I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to get the full experience. I'm like, wait a second, I'm still getting the full 3 days.
Yep.
So I had a great time. Again, learned a lot, was able to, again, because of my press pass, skip some lines. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm boasting about that, because by doing that, you are kind of locked in to try to see as much as you can. Like, as much as I'm a fan of State of Decay, and I would have loved to have really sat around and played the game again, or waited on lines for other events and really sat down and played through a game for a full hour or two.
Yeah, you had a lot of interviews.
You have to keep going. You have to keep booking it. And again, it's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just kind of the way it is, and that's fine. I'm glad what I did, and I'm really excited to see what comes up next year, because I love PAX, and it really is that once a year kind of breath of fresh air that you need.
Yeah, I think that's about it. It's, I always look forward to it every single year. It's a place to really let your nerd flag fly, and it's just a wonderful collection of enjoyment. I mean, for especially, whether you're a new to the world of gaming or have been doing this for decades, there's really something for everybody.
I always see something new.
Yes.
I always see something new whenever I go.
And thanks to the Omegathon, I might be getting Drop Mix at some point in the future. That was the final game.
Oh man.
That was the final round of the Omegathon, was Drop Mix, and it looked really cool.
That's awesome.
So, I think that is going to pretty much do it, unless you guys have anything else you'd like to add.
I think that's plenty, my friend.
I think I covered everything.
All right, so again, if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, if any of you listeners out there were at PAX East and want to chime in about your experiences, you can let us know on our Facebook, Twitter, our website, dlcpodcast.com. You send us feedback. You can listen to every single episode there as well as iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play Music. It's all there. Be sure to check out Sprites and Dice. So thank you, Wyatt and Alton, for taking some time out of your Sprites and Dice schedule to hop on DLC.
No worries.
Thanks for having us.
All right, and on that note, I'm Brian. Have a good one, everybody.